Hi guys, welcome to this video, and this one is about the foam roller that I like to use. This is the Hyperice Vyper. So how is it different from a regular foam roller? Well, it's got a motor unit and a battery on the inside, and it's going to create vibration. That's the first level, second level, and that was the third level. So the frequency is quite high. So that means that you kind of get all shaken up on the inside as you do your regular foam rolling exercises. Now, the reason why I like it so much is because, as you guys know, I was diagnosed with compartment syndrome about 4.5 years ago. I had my surgery 4 years ago, and it's been this is the one thing that basically kept me sane throughout my recovery, which is still ongoing. So you can imagine the amount of damage that I had on all my structures on the inside. So what happened is that my fascia, so the connective tissue, was very stiff and unresponsive, and it was pretty much non-functional. So by shaking it up using the Hyperice Vyper, that actually was a tremendous help in getting it more active and acting normally again. So I still use this every day for 10 to 20 minutes. I like to do 2 sessions, one in the morning and one before I go to bed, to make sure that I get the best results. If I have time, I also do it before I do a workout. Don't always have the time. If you go to my website, to the page where it has all the resources for my stretching and mobility video, you can find a direct link to where you can get this one, and that's wimdemeere.com/mobility. Also, I'll put a link into the description of this video. I'll also put a direct link where you can buy this one, but it's not cheap. It's relatively expensive. On the other hand, I think it's worth every cent that I put into it. This is my second one, actually. This is the Vyper. I don't know if you can see it. It's Vyper 2.0, so it's the second version. I had the first one as well, but that one eventually gave out because I was using it so much. So the battery is completely depleted, it doesn't charge well anymore. So then I got this second one, and I actually like it better. So one of the main reasons is because the density is similar to the first one. It's quite stiff, so I like that a lot. I don't like a foam roller that is too soft. Doesn't work for me. I'm a heavyweight, I'm fairly muscular, so it's hard for me to use a soft foam roller and get any real results. If that's not you, you might consider that. You can also wrap it in a towel to give it a little bit more of a softer feel if that works better for you. So that's one thing. Second thing, the grooves, as you can see here, they're actually a lot more narrow. They're slightly angled, as opposed to the first Vyper that was a lot thicker and there was a lot more space between the grooves, and they were more along parallel lines, which meant that you could really dig into certain muscles. But it also meant that as you were rolling over something, let's say that I'm rolling over my hamstrings like this, and all of a sudden as you hit the next groove, it kind of bites into the flesh a little bit, into the muscle a little bit. So I didn't really enjoy that as much, but I like this one better. So some general recommendations on how to use this one. If you start using it and you leave it like this, it's going to take about 10 minutes for it to stop. Then it's just going to stop functioning, and then you know how long you've been working with it. So that's a good way to keep track of time. Normally, if I'm not mistaken, Hyperice recommends that you don't use it longer than 20 minutes at a time. So that would be 2 full sessions, one after the other, where it stops after 10 minutes. You hit start again, and it starts again, and you keep going until next time it stops. To save battery life, to save the motor unit that is on the inside, you don't want to do that. So don't just keep going for hours on end. You're going to wear it out pretty quickly, and as I said, it's not cheap, so you might want to make sure that you take care of it correctly. So that's the first thing. Second thing, compared to a regular foam roller, go slow. So what you want to have is that you're putting your leg or whatever on top of the foam roller, and you let the vibration do the work. So put some weight on your limb and then slowly roll over it at about this speed, which is good, and I'll show you later in the video. And you roll back, and you always try to find different angles. So if this is my foot and my toes are pointing straight up, and I'm going to go over my calf muscle like this, then next time I'm going to rotate it a little bit, take a little bit more of the outside portion, and then next time I'm going to rotate inward a little bit, take a little bit more of the inside portion of the calf muscle. Same thing for all the other limbs, same thing for your whole body. You're going to have to always twist a little bit and look for the best possible way to put pressure in the spot that you need it. We're all different. Everybody has different, let's say, each body has a different emphasis on it in its anatomy. I have fairly thick muscles because I'm a heavyweight and I've been working out for 30 plus years. Other people have a more delicate frame. So if you're going to do some of the exercises that I do where I put my entire weight on top of it, well, maybe that doesn't work for you because you're going to hit bone a lot quicker. Whereas somebody else, if you're really into strength training or powerlifting, you've got incredibly dense and strong muscles, you might even have to put even more weight on top of it than I do. So everybody's different. And that's the next point. Make sure that you don't hurt yourself. Make sure that you absolutely take your time to feel, okay, how does this work? How far can I roll this one before it becomes too uncomfortable, before it hurts, and so on. So that means that you don't start on level 3, start on level 1, do a full session on the foam roller, see how you feel afterwards. And then if that works, next time you do it, next session, do it on 2 and eventually on 3. The next part of that is also figuring out which muscles and which parts of your body need a different level. For instance, quadriceps is with a lot of martial artists and self-defense practitioners. It's pretty tight muscles, so you often have to use a little bit more intensity there. But let's say the inside portion of your forearm these muscles are quite thin in comparison, so you don't necessarily need as much intensity and pressure there. So figure out what works for you and be mindful of how your body reacts to it. Now, generally speaking, you never want to work bone on the foam roller. So that is the point of my elbow. You never put the bone on top of it. You also don't put the joint on top of it. So if I'm doing it like this, then I'm going to hit the bones here of my forearm directly onto the foam roller. You don't want that. The point of the foam roller is loosening up the soft tissues, not the hard parts of your body, not the skeletal system. You're going for muscle tissue, you're going for connective tissue and so on. You're not going for bone or joints. Make sure you never do that. So not on the elbows, not on your knees, especially not on your vertebrae, not on your spine. Stay away from that. Not on your shin bones, you don't want that. Only on soft tissue. That is the key principle when you use this kind of foam roller, because the vibrations can be so intense that you actually create injury. So avoid that. The next part is that, as I said before, you have to go slowly. Don't rush over it. Take your time to go slowly. And as you go slow, you get what you need the most, which is relaxation, which is the most difficult part. Let's say that this is my leg and my foot is pointing up, so I'm rolling over my hamstrings here. The hamstrings are on the back of your leg. So if you're tensing up, then all these muscles tense up, and then the foam roller that emits the vibration, that vibration doesn't get all the way through where it needs to go, because the muscle fibers are locking into each other, they're connecting, so you can't shake them loose, so to speak. So try to go slow, and as you go slow, you relax. You relax into it as much as you can. This is a constant thing. You have to constantly think about it. And then you're going to feel that if your mind wanders, all of a sudden you notice that, well, you actually tense that muscle up again to protect it from the vibration. It's an instinctive response. So take your time, go slow and relax into it. How do you do that? Breathe and focus. Focus on the muscle that you're working on and breathe in and out evenly, as opposed to holding your breath, which is an instinctive thing to do, but it doesn't really work well. So that is generally speaking. How do I like to do it? I like to go one part of the body at a time. So I will do my feet first, then I'm going to do the calf muscle, and I'll start with rolling straight forward and backwards. Then I'm going to rotate my foot a little bit to the outside, go up and down, rotate to the inside, up and down. So again, like I said, I'm always changing the angle and looking for different ways of hitting the same structures. Same thing for the hamstrings and so on. So I like to take one part of the anatomy at a time. Foot, lower leg, upper leg, and all the tissues that are around them. That means the front side of the upper leg, back side of the upper leg, the outside and the inside. If you work up to the next part, that will be hips and the psoas muscle, and also some deep back muscles. Then we're going to move on to the erector spinae, which is basically the narrow band that you have on each side of your spine. So if you touch your spine, you feel in the middle, you'll feel the vertebrae, and next to that there's like bands of muscle that go all the way on top towards your head. You will work on those gently, very gently. You don't want to injure those. You don't want to hyperextend your back as you do that. Just always very gently. That would be next. And then I'm going to work on upper back. Then what I like to do is go for chest, bicep, and forearm, the inside portion. And then I'm going to go for triceps and outside of the forearm. You can do it differently. It's up to you. You can put some more emphasis on the parts that need more attention when it comes to that type of training you do. If, for instance, you do a lot of grip training, you might want to spend a little bit more time on the forearms. If you do a lot of low stances, you might spend a little bit more time on the quads, on the quadriceps, and so on. So you have to figure out what works best for you, but try to have a method. Don't just go from left leg to upper right arm. Just be methodical about it. That tends to work best as opposed to just going all over the place. So those are the general recommendations. I'm going to show you some exercises next, and then we can really start using the VIPER.
So let's get started with the bottom of our feet. Just slowly roll forward and backwards, putting a little bit of pressure on it. You can even stand on it with both feet if you like, but give it a try with one foot first, making sure you work both the inside, the middle portion, and the outside from the heel all the way up to the toe as you progress. And then we go on to the calf muscle, the backside of the lower leg. Just support yourself with your hands, and you can slowly roll forward as you progress through the exercise. Also make sure that as I'm doing here, you rotate both your feet to the inside, go forward and backwards, and then same thing towards the outside. You can choose how much pressure you put on there by supporting your weight more or less as you slowly roll forward and backwards. Then progressing towards all the way towards the buttocks, and you're just going to sit down on it. And same thing, just rotate your foot left and right to see what works best. Now, this one here is for the piriformis, which is one of the smaller muscles. This might be a little bit uncomfortable. If so, then you put that support foot, my right foot here in this case, a little bit more forward, and that'll make it easier. But be careful with this one, take your time, and just do it softly at first. Moving on to the side of the leg, this is tensor fasciae latae and related structures. This can be very painful if it's tight, so again, just don't overdo it right away. Take your time, support yourself with both hands and the top leg. I'm putting the foot down and go all the way down until you get to the side of the ankle. So you can also do it with both feet on top of each other for added pressure if that is something that works better for you. Then moving on to the quadriceps. So don't touch the knee and go all the way up towards the hip. And same thing as always, make sure you get the entire quads. So you're going to go forward and backwards in the middle portion. Now I'm rotating my right foot inward, so I'm taking a little bit more of the outside portion. And then afterwards, I'm going to rotate my foot outwards, taking more the inside of the quadriceps. So you just try to make sure you're very thorough in how you do the foam rolling, just always going to get the maximum surface of your body involved in it. And this is more for the psoas, so I'm going to lift my foot off the ground, and then it's going to be a little bit easier to dig into the psoas. Then adductor muscles, so put your foot at about a 90-degree angle, your legs are at about a 90-degree angle, and then very slowly roll towards the knee and then towards the groin area, but you do not touch the groin. It's not that kind of exercise. Moving on to erector spinae, so the back muscles, very gently with this one here. You do not want to hit the vertebrae themselves, you're only going for the muscles. So very slowly work your way down. You can see that I'm walking forward with my feet. You can put your butt on the floor if you like, or as I'm doing here, stay elevated, or a combination of both. And you do not touch the cervical spine, so stay on the shoulders, never go towards the neck. And you can bridge for added pressure as I'm doing here. And then another trick you can do, for some people that works better, is you cross your arms to dig a little bit deeper into the upper back. So see if that works better for you. And then we move on to the latissimus dorsi, so that's the back muscles. So just extend one arm, roll a little bit to the side. You're going to have to figure out again which angle is best, and very slowly go towards your armpit. Then we hit the chest muscles. So extend one arm to the side and support yourself a little bit on the left arm. My right arm here is not supporting my body at all. I'm just sliding over it from the middle of the chest towards the shoulder. And I'm moving on towards the bicep. So I'm rotating my hand a little bit so I'm hitting the bicep really well. Same thing, a little bit of pressure on it, but just mainly try to relax. And then you move on to the inside portion of the forearm. So same thing, just go a little bit left and right, and I'm using my left arm in this case to maneuver myself so that I'm rolling over the foam roller. For the outside portion of the forearm, this is what I prefer. I put some pressure with my right hand to make sure that I hit the muscles correctly. I'm rotating my thumb down, so I'm getting a little bit more of the top side of the forearm. And you can do the same thing, rotating it inward, and then you get the lower part as well. This is for tricep. Pretend that you are going to strangle yourself. And I'm just supporting yourself on your right hand in this case and slowly rolling from the elbow towards the armpit, more or less. And then you have several variations. I'm putting my hand a little bit higher, so towards my head this time. So I'm taking the outside portion of the triceps, and then later on I'm going to put my hand on my shoulder, and that's going to hit more of the inside portion. So all this is things that you're going to have to experiment with, but these work really well for me, and I tend to do them typically in a sequence, both left and right side, obviously. So that's it. So this is the accompanying video for my stretching and mobility exercises video. And you can get that one if you go to my website, demeere.com/mobility. Thanks very much and take care.